Blessed is the man who was not in the council of the wicked.
Hi, everyone. Christ is in our midst. This is our seventh session of Virtual Sunday School, I believe. I hope you're enjoying it so far. And if you didn't get to see the last few lessons, they're linked on our YouTube page, which is on the email list, and also on the church website. If you watched our lesson last week, we talked about a young man named Isaac, who was the son of Abraham. Both of these guys, Isaac and Abraham, are examples to us of people who are faithful and obedient to God's will. They're people who God blesses because they respect His will. They're rewarded by God in that way. Abraham is promised Isaac as a son. That's his reward. You know, if you remember, Abraham and his wife Sarah were not able to have kids, but God says, "I will give you a kid. I will bless you with a kid. His name will be Isaac." And that son, Isaac, when he grows up, he is granted himself a wife by God. That wife was named Rebekah, who he loved very much. They have a very long life, and they have two sons, twins in fact, named Jacob and Esau. And as you can imagine, just like their parents were so happy, they were so happy about this, about having children. But there was a problem with the children. Rebekah, when she was pregnant, she could feel the twins fighting inside of her. And she did not like that. She didn't want her sons to fight. And so she asked God about it. And the Lord said to her, "These two sons, they represent two nations in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Which is a kind of scary prophecy if you think about it. But anyway, this story's on the longer side, so I'm just going to jump right into it. If you remember, the book I'm using is Bible Stories for Children, so if you want to follow along with the text, I'm on page 45. Isaac and Rebekah lived together happily. They prayed to God that they would have children, but not until Isaac was 60 years old were their prayers answered. When Rebekah felt life growing inside of her, she also felt fighting and kicking, as if there was a terrible struggle going on inside of her womb. "Why is this happening?" she asked God, for the pain was very great. And God said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two separate peoples will be born from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the firstborn child will serve the younger." In time, Rebekah gave birth to twin boys. The firstborn, Esau, was all red and hairy. The second, named Jacob, was hairless and pink, and was born holding Esau's heel in his hand. As the firstborn son, Esau was to become the head of the household after Isaac's death. This was Esau's birthright, and it made Isaac glad, because Esau was his favorite. Esau grew up to become a fine hunter and always brought fresh meat for his father's dinner. Jacob, though, stayed home most of the time to help his mother, who loved him best. One day, Esau came home from hunting early, and just as Jacob was cooking some soup, a thick bean soup, Esau had caught nothing that morning, and was very tired and hungry. And the smell of the soup made him feel so hungry he thought he would die. "Give me some of your soup," he cried. "I must have something to eat right away." Jacob thought for a moment. "Give me your birthright," he said, "and I will give you food." And Esau was so exhausted he could think of nothing but the thick red soup. "What good is my birthright to me if I die of hunger before I can use it? You can have it, only give me something to eat." "Swear to God first," said Jacob. So Esau swore before God that he would give his birthright to Jacob, and only then did Jacob give his brother a bowl of soup and a piece of bread. Esau ate his lunch and returned to the fields, never thinking how cheaply he had sold his precious birthright. And many years later, when Isaac was very old and his eyes were dim, he said to Esau, "My son, I may die any day now. Please take your bow and arrow into the fields and bring me some fresh meat. Then cook it the special way I like it, so I can eat it before I die, and I will give you my blessing." So now Rebekah overheard Isaac as he spoke to Esau. When Esau left, she told Jacob, her favorite son, everything that Isaac had said. And she said to Jacob, "Listen carefully, and do exactly what I tell you. Kill 2 young goats from our flock, and bring the meat and skins to me. After I cook the meat the special way your father likes, take it to him, and he will bless you instead of your father." "But mother," Jacob argued, "Esau is covered with hair, and I am not. Suppose my father touches me, and finds out who I really am, then he will curse me instead of blessing me." "The curse will be upon me," said Rebekah. "Just do as I tell you." So Jacob killed the 2 goats, and brought the meat and skins to his mother. Quickly Rebekah cooked the special meat for Isaac and gave it to Jacob to serve to him. But first she dressed Jacob in Esau's clothes, and put the goat skins on his neck and hands so that he would feel hairy. "Who are you?" asked Isaac when Jacob brought him the meat. Jacob answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn son, and I brought you the special meat you asked for. Eat it, father, and then give me your blessing." "How did you get the meat so fast?" Isaac asked him. "The Lord brought it to me," answered Jacob. Then Isaac said, "Come closer to me, so I can feel whether you truly are my son Esau." And Isaac touched Jacob's hands, which felt rough and hairy, because of the skins which Rebekah had put on them. Isaac wondered at this. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He said, "Are you really my beloved son Esau?" And Jacob said, "I am." Then Isaac ate the meat and blessed his son, saying, "Let all people serve you, and nations bow down to you, for you shall rule this household and be master over your brother." And Jacob had just left Isaac when Esau came back from his hunting. He prepared the special meat for his father and went to ask him. "Father," he said, "here is the meat I cooked for you. Eat it so that you may give me your blessing." "Who are you?" Isaac cried. "What is the matter?" Esau asked. "I am Esau, your firstborn son." And Isaac became very upset and asked, "Then who was it that brought me the meat?" And I ate it all and blessed him. And with a bitter cry, Esau begged, "Bless me too, father." But sorrowfully, Isaac said, "Your brother Jacob tricked me. I gave him the blessing that I meant for you." And then Esau became angry at Jacob and said, "My brother was born with his hand on my heel, and twice he has made me stumble. First he took away my birthright, and now he has taken away my blessing. Father, have you not saved a blessing for me as well?" "I have already given Jacob power over you and made him head of the household," Isaac answered. "What can I give you?" "Have you just one blessing?" asked Esau, and he wept. "Is there nothing at all for me?" Then Isaac said, "All I can leave you is the fat of the land to live on, and the dew from the heavens above. My son, you must live by your sword and serve your brother, but the time will come when Jacob is no longer your master." And Esau hated Jacob and said to himself, "My father will die some day, and when the time for his mourning is over, I will kill Jacob." So what do we hear in the story? Right off the bat, the first major issue that I heard, at least, was that the parents, Isaac and Rebekah, were playing favorites, which is wrong, right? It doesn't sound right that a parent should say, "I like this son more than that son." Parents should love each of the children equally and not have favorites. But Isaac and Rebekah were not good parents in this way. This shows us that even those that have been blessed by God are not perfect, but in fact they may make mistakes just like we do. So as these 2 sons grew, Esau loved to be outside and was a very good hunter. His father Isaac loved to eat the tasty meat from the animals that Esau killed. Esau was his father's favorite son. Jacob was quieter and enjoyed working around the home. His mother Rebekah loved him best because he was always helping her. One day, Jacob was home cooking some soup, and Esau had been out hunting, and when he returned, he was very hungry. "Jacob, give me some of that red stew," he asked, and Jacob would not give him any. He says, "Not unless you give me your birthright." And Esau says, "Well, if I don't have any soup to eat right now, then I'll die. And then what's the point of having the birthright if I'm going to be dead?" Obviously, he's being a little bit dramatic here. He's probably not going to die if he had to wait a few more minutes for some soup. And just by the way, in case you didn't know, a birthright is something, we don't really hear about it that much nowadays, But a long time ago, a birthright was something that a father gave to his firstborn son. That meant that the son got an extra portion of inheritance when his father died. So after Esau promised to sell his birthright to Jacob for some soup, Jacob brought him the soup, bread, and something to drink. And Esau had thought he had made a good trade, but really he sold his birthright very cheaply. He didn't really think about the future. He was just concerned with eating something right now. Because he was the oldest, Esau otherwise would have received special treatment when his father had died. He would have gotten more stuff, probably more of a portion of the house, more of a portion of the land. To have the birthright was very special privilege. Not just would he would have stuff, but he would be in charge of the family as well. But Esau didn't take it seriously. He gave all that away for some soup. Esau didn't think about the future. He was only worried about getting something to eat right now. And besides the birthright, Esau gave away something else that was special. Or rather, he lost something that was special. And that was the father's dying blessing. The father of each family at that time would give a special blessing to one of his sons. And in that blessing, the father would say who got the most respect, who would be the leader of the family once he died. He would give good wishes of health, wealth, power, and safety for his son's future. Now, when it came time for Isaac to die, when he was very old, Esau came to him and said, I'm going to get you something to eat, and please give me the blessing in exchange for it. So Isaac says to him, go and get me the meat that I like and make me some food, and I will give you the blessing in exchange for that. But someone else overheard this, and that was Rebekah. And if you remember what I was saying earlier, Jacob was Rebekah's favorite son. So she didn't want Esau to have the blessing, Isaac's blessing, but she wanted Jacob to have Isaac's blessing. So what she did was she plotted with Jacob to try to trick her husband, his father, into giving him the blessing. And here's how that plan would work. First, she told Jacob to go and kill 2 goats and bring her the meat so that she could make them the way Isaac liked. Because Jacob wasn't a good hunter, so he went and took from the goats that the family already had. And when they gave it to his father, then his father would think, oh, someone brought me the meat, that must be Esau, I'll give him the blessing. But another thing that they were worried about was Esau was so hairy, and Jacob didn't have any hair. So they worried that when Jacob came to his father would feel him, like feel his arm or his hand or something, and realize, oh, this isn't my son Esau, this is somebody else. So what they did was they took some goat skins, like some fur from a goat, and they put it on his chest and back and arms, so that way he would feel hairy. And Isaac, by the way, was, because he was so old, he was also blind, so he couldn't see. So he was just trying to figure out those kinds of things by his other senses, like feeling. So when Jacob went into his father's tent, Isaac couldn't see that it was Jacob, not Esau. And he wasn't sure, so he called him over and said, let me feel your hands to make sure that you're really my son Esau. And when he felt the goat skin, he thought it was Esau's hairy hands. And when he tasted the goat meat, he thought it was the wild animal that Esau killed. So when he smelled Esau's clothes that his mother put on him, he really thought that it was his oldest son Esau. So Isaac gave his blessing then to Jacob because he thought it was Esau. And this blessing, it doesn't really make sense nowadays, but back in that time it was considered so important that once it had been spoken, it could not be taken back. And in this blessing, Isaac said, may nations serve you, and people bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. So he's saying, your brother will serve you. He had meant that to Esau, that Jacob would serve him, but it got flipped because Isaac was tricked. And Isaac was just finished giving his blessing to Jacob when Esau came back in from hunting. And he fixed him the same meal, the same tasty food, just like his father had asked, and took it to his father so that he could receive the blessing. And obviously his father was very confused. He said, well, I just gave my blessing to somebody else. Who are you that's coming to bring me some food? And, soon afterwards, Isaac and Esau had realized that they'd been tricked. And Esau was obviously very angry at this. He begged his father. He said, please bless me too. I know you already gave the blessing, but give me. Don't you have something for me? And he was upset with his brother for tricking him 2 times. First, his brother took his birthright, and now he takes his blessing. It doesn't seem fair. And Esau was so angry that he thought to himself, once my father dies, I'm going to go and kill my brother Jacob. He was so angry that he was plotting to kill his own brother. If you remember, this is something similar to what we heard in the story of Cain and Abel, that a brother is going to kill another brother. But when Rebekah heard about Esau's plans, she sent Jacob away. She told him to go hide away, go stay with your other relatives. She had a brother named Laban in a different part of the country, and he said, go stay with him. She said, go stay with him until your brother Esau calms down. And she told Jacob, while you're staying there, you can try to find a wife and start a family because you'll probably be there for a very long time. So as we can see by what Rebekah did, by what Jacob did, everyone in the family was hurt. Because Rebekah and Jacob succeeded in tricking Isaac, they split the family apart. They, fell. They fell from what God had planned for them as a family. So as we see, like I said earlier, just because someone is blessed by God, it doesn't mean that they can't make mistakes. In fact, as we see in this story, this family, who are descendants of Abraham and are supposed to be God's people, they're supposed to be blessed by God, they make lots of mistakes and ends up dividing their family. And we're going to see similar things in the next few stories with the characters that are coming up. That although those characters are descendants of Abraham, they're part of God's people, the nation of Israel, they're blessed by God, they will continue to make bad choices, which will hurt themselves, will hurt others, will break God's will, and ultimately disappoint God. Though they are blessed by God, they will continue to mess up. Israel will continue to mess up. But this is all part of God's plan. God lets his people mess up. He doesn't force them to, he just lets them do what they want. And they continue to mess up over and over again. And the idea is one day they're going to mess up so many times that they'll realize they can't make it on their own. They need to rely on God. They need to listen to God and listen to his word, or they will forever continue to hurt themselves. God wants to protect his people from what happened to the first people he created, Adam and Eve. He wants to help them to understand that if they're too prideful and think that they can make it on their own, that they can live a good life on their own, it will always turn out bad for them. It will always lead to death. It will always lead to violence. We see, Esau is threatening to kill Jacob. On the other hand, if they rely on God and they're obedient to his word, and they listen to the way God wants us to live our lives, then they will be saved. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully see you next week.